Welcome, Sojourners, to the Women's Leadership Mindset series presented by Teresa K. Page, LLC. My name is Teresa Page. I am your host and looking forward to spending these next few moments with all of you. We have a lot of work to get done on today, but first, allow me to invite you to connect with me by subscribing to my website and YouTube channel. Connect and follow me on LinkedIn, and always feel free to contact me directly via email at teresakpagellc@outlook.com. So what is our goal? Well, as an author, speaker, coach, and mentor, my mission is to help professional women renew their leadership mindset with fresh fire and purpose through the mediums of leadership development and coaching services. However, the Women's Leadership Mindset series is a new initiative intended to spotlight powerful women leaders and how they serve the world through their professions and purpose. So with the goal to help women realize their unfulfilled dreams and re-energize the leaders they always were, this platform is designed to enhance, empower, educate, equalize, and even emancipate, as our special guests share their entrepreneurial stories, provide valuable resources, and guidance in a caring, professional, and impactful manner. So, let's get down to business. Well, all right. In today's video, it is my pleasure to welcome to my virtual stage Mr. Dwight Thompson, aka TheWriteWarrior, founder, gospel poet, project specialist, and lead writer of TheWriteWarrior Business and Creative Writing Services of Pompano Beach, Florida. Dwight Thompson, aka TheWriteWarrior, is a dynamic Euro-Caribbean American author and creative force based in South Florida. As a gospel poet, project specialist, and development editor, Dwight's work spans multiple genres and platforms. His forever goal is in inspiring others to find their voice, reach new heights in their careers, and/or establish personal legacies. With Dwight's guidance, you can transform your writing aspirations into tangible success and leave a lasting legacy through the power of words. Dwight's journey as an author is found in his ongoing Pinnacombs and Spaceships family book series, a testimonial exploration of creative capital through poetry, purpose, and publishing. As the lead writer for TheWriteWarrior Business and Creative Services Writing Services, Dwight offers a range of professional services including developmental editing, book production, manuscript formatting, business plan creation, and social media strategy development. Dwight's commitment to nurturing aspiring writers, he does that via mentorship, complimentary consultation sessions, virtual writing communities, and author showcases on social media with like-minded individuals, as well as with his books, which offer a wealth of inspiration and practical guidance, and the Write Warriors membership, which provides exclusive support, access, and programming for creatives and sponsors. Now, Dwight believes that everyone has the divine right to become the best and most poetic versions of themselves. So to contact Dwight, you may reach him on his website at businessandcreativewritingservices.com. And you may also connect with him on Linktree, and that's linktr.ee/TheWriteWarrior to learn more about his books on Amazon, as well as how to connect with him on social media. So we'll bring this information back to you along with Dwight's free gift before we go. But I just want to say welcome, Dwight, to the Women's Leadership Mindset series. You are my very first gentleman. How are you on today?
Blessings. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you so much for sharing this space with me and opening your heart and minds to the endless possibilities of the universe.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I am really excited about our conversation on today. We met by a wonderful, great connector, Rashana Beckles. So the idea girl. I absolutely love her.
Yes.
She's always a wonderful connector in between entrepreneurs as well as writers and all of that. So I want to give a shout out to Rashana for this wonderful connection. Dwight, I'm really excited about our conversation. As you know, this is the Women's Leadership Mindset series, but this year, 2024, I'm open to open up this environment, this particular platform, because leadership is for all of us, both men, women, and the like. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our conversation on today. So why don't we go ahead and jump in, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
At the age of 13, I came down with the pox, burning up like gasoline. I couldn't use my voice box to say the hole in my socks was smaller than the room I was sleeping in, but bigger than the lie I was living in, with a father who didn't bother to speak with me, except it was to say, not to use profanity. All he gave to me was a Bible outlined in red, so I was speaking in tongues from the head instead of being dead. Last summer, another brother died, and I cried, thinking of all those who refused to let Christ inside. I have a slide of his broken body on my laptop to remind me of where I would be if I ever stopped and dropped. Was hard living a life without Jesus Christ or God, or a life where everyone thinks that you are odd and should be beaten with a rod or a stick or pot spoon or whip or chains if you have one. I have yet to see a saint or sinner escape the light of the sun. Blessings. My name is
Well,
Dwight
yes,
Thompson.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm assuming, Dwight, that is a piece from some of your gospel poetry. Is that correct?
Blessings. That is correct. I've been writing since I was a young boy growing up in the Caribbean. And my mom instilled in me a love of poetry and reading. Every night, she would read a story to me before I go to sleep. And my father invested about two of his paychecks and he purchased the physical encyclopedias. If you remember back in the days before Google and the internet, you would get a collection of about 20 something books from A to Z that would have all of the world's knowledge at that time. So by the time I was 12, I had read the entire Bible front to back. By the time I was 13, I had read J.R.R. Tolkien's The Silmarillion, which is the precursor to The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And when I entered into high school, it was just endless competitions and writings. And I was blessed. I want to shout out to all the teachers. I was blessed with a cadre of wonderful teachers who were inspirational about the English language and literature and poetry and the grammar and the functionality of it. And that took me to where I am now. You know, in 2020, I started my own publishing house, you know, the great awakening, as I call it. You know, COVID did a number on a lot of us, and some of us are still recovering from it. But that Phoenix moment for me showed me that I could tap into my mental health, tap into my faith, tap into my purpose, and find a way out. So now I'm about showing that positivity through practical methods that we all can embrace because we're all one family. You know, it's all one love, one unity. Humanity is one. That is God's purpose. That is the reason why we exist, to make good connections and to be kind to one another. So for me, bringing that into South Florida, bringing that into the nation, into the world, is something I feel responsible, beholden, and joyful in doing because there's way too much negativity going on, way too much bad vibes, as we call it. So the least we can do is show how through structured journaling, through poetry, through expression, through collaborations, such as with folks like yourself, how we can share a common purpose, a common cause, and help each other be better in some aspect of life.
Absolutely. Well, that's wonderful. Mhm. Well, Dwight, you did say something about COVID, how it did a number on all of us. I know that you have been a poet for a very long time. Just based upon that particular experience that we had, um, how did you find that the tempo of your poetry, did it change any? How did you create during the COVID experience through your writing and through your poetry?
So what happened was initially, pre-COVID, I was a full-time government employee down here in Broward County. So I was in charge of administration, operations, shelter management, hurricane preparedness, uh, new hire on board, and all that good stuff. And my time was very limited. So I would write, I would do a couple of pieces every now and then, but not to any great extent, because I believe in always keeping your skills sharp. And even if you're in your 9 to 5 and you're working, you have to have two mindsets, right? And I'm going to digress a little bit. The first mindset is in your 9 to 5, you don't matter to them, right? You're just a number. And trust me, I would know. I did the paperwork. I remember one day, this young man, he unfortunately left the company. Um, and the same day in the morning, I got a phone call. Hey, call security. We're getting rid of so and so. And then by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I got the same person called me. Hey, start the paperwork to get a new person to come into that slot. So once you understand your 9 to 5 doesn't care about you, no matter how many birthday clubs and Christmas parties and $25 Walmart gift cards they give you, then the second part is, what is your purpose? What is the reason why you exist? The job is only a method of you being able to express your purpose. What is your true purpose? And so prior to COVID, I was always keeping track of my purpose somewhat, but I was fully into the company, organizing events, working, showing up, thinking of family. Then COVID happened, and it was like a big reset button. Beep. And then I found myself a little bit more time and going through some things, joblessness, illness. It was a problem. The hardest thing to do is to go from having 10 hours a day scheduled and organized for you by your commitment to a company to now having to look for food, find a place to stay, now have to fill out paperwork and understand what do I do with my life? How do I take care of my family? How do I make money? So in that space, I would make little notes of encouragement to myself. I would, of course, read my Bible and pray and do devotions and figure out how to make this work. And so my poetry evolved even further because my poetry has always been about purpose and faith. But now it became a tad bit more aggressive, but not in terms of just like all over the place, but in terms of intentional.
Yeah.
It became more intentional because I realized that people were hurting and they were not saying anything. People were going through things and not sharing how they got through it. So my goal was to be as vulnerable and transparent as possible in my struggles in the moment. And as I get through it, show what worked for me. And I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody, but at least you have an idea. At least you can find a formula that works for you. And so my poetry is now stronger, deeper. It taps into different aspects of Mother Nature and community and social media and faith and life and God and love, but it's also elements of culture and history and betrayal, racism, political corruption, because all those elements reflect our society and we need everyone to be part of the solution. However, sometimes the solution begins with one person. That person is yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to say thank you because I'm assuming that the right warrior was a solution for this particular moment, right? Is that correct?
That is
Awesome,
correct.
awesome. So you took all of the intentional, I like the word that you used, aggressive, but you also were talking about how that aggression was more so directed towards intention. So you have that intention has been born in the Right Warrior. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about the Right Warrior, your services, as well as who your services designed for. So why don't you take a little bit of time to tell us about that?
Salute. So what I've discovered is sometimes we take too long to find our purpose or to find the reason why we exist. And there's a Bible scripture that says, worship the Lord while you're young. But as you get older, you won't have the energy to do so. And that's one of the things that is important. Wherever we are in life, life cannot just be a cycle of you're born, you go to school, you work, you have a family, and then you die. That cannot be it. What is the stuff in between? Where's the happiness? Where's the legacy? Where's the ability to feel fulfilled? We all should be able to go to sleep at night knowing we did a great job that day because it could be our last day for whatever reason. Circumstances change, people change. So what I did is I took everything I learned in my 12 years in Broward County, everything that I had become in terms of a professional, administration, operations, records management, right? Personal development, working with teenagers, working with young people, working with older folks, working with all the races and cultures. Come on now. Pompano Beach is basically a microcosm of the entire world. We have Arabians, we have Syrians, we have Caribbeans, Africans, we have South Americans, Russians, Ukrainians, we have everyone here. And in that, I realized one thing people want to be better, people want to know how to. A lot of times we don't have the tools. Our school system, we won't go there on this conversation. But what I did was I took everything I had learned and I found a way to codify it, found a way to make a SOP, a standard operating procedure out of it. I say, okay, if I'm a poet, how would I teach poetry to others? And so we came up with a concept of structured journaling. We published a book that is a journal. It's a vision journal and a workbook, 250 pages, and it's available through Amazon. And it has all the tips you need to either write a business plan or to do daily prompts and affirmations. And we also do structured journaling sessions, where we work with folks one-on-one. We do daily text check-ins. And if you want to just figure out what works for you, we do a personal development plan. Right now, we have some folks who they want to be able to speak better in their job environment, right? Some folks just want to be able to stand strong in the midst of a family crisis. So we show how through writing poetry, writing in a structured journal manner, how expressing yourself helps with that. And that's the personal development side. Then there's the business development side. A lot of companies, entrepreneurs don't have a business plan. That should be the first thing you do. Because what I've learned is in writing out your intention and your goal, you're able to make it happen. Not just manifest. The manifest is slightly different, but it gives you a clear path on what to work on. So we offer business plans. We also work with NPOs. So if an NPO is looking to get some funding together, promote their entire business venture, and possibly go into a wider demographic, you have to get funding, and we help with that. We do not write grants, but we do review grant proposals, do the local market research and all that. And of course, our biggest joy is helping others publish their books. It could be a family memoir, it could be a poetry book. And just to be clear, on my social media platform and most of my content is about sharing information because I'm independently published, meaning that we don't believe in taking someone's rights, taking their royalties, owning their intellectual property, and then treating them like a second-class servant, right? If you wrote something, it's yours. Our goal is to show you how the industry works, understand what is the ISBN, right? Which is the barcode on the back of the books. What is the copyright laws, right? What is marketing? How do you get your book out? How do you distribute it? What is your local area like? What's the purpose of your book? So once you understand what you're doing, you can have a dream of writing the story of your grandmother who passed away several years ago. And she told you so many stories of your family, you want to publish it, but you don't know how. This is what we're here for. So the first level is understanding the knowledge, how the system works and what you want to accomplish and find a plan. The secondly is where are you with the skills? If you're an artist, then you can design a book cover like this. My daughter designed this book cover,
It's
right?
beautiful.
Thank you. I'll let her know. She's always going on about it. She said, "No, you can't publish any book covers, Daddy. I gotta review it, do it, and I'll let you know when it's okay." You know. And then you might be a former school teacher, so you're great with writing and formatting. However, you need a second pair of eyes. So we find out what you need, we fill in the gap. If you want to do the full Monty with us and say, "Listen, here's my manuscript. I want you to produce everything, design a cover, let me know how much it costs," we can do so. And at every step and at the end product, you own everything. We're not a vanity press, which means a vanity press will say, "We'll charge you $5,000 to produce your book, but we own your book and we'll give you some copies and you have to sell it, you have to promote it, you have to market it." That's not good business. What we do as independent publishers, we show you the process. And if you say, for example, I only need someone to tap in and format my manuscript and design a book cover. I can do everything else myself. Here you go. Here's the contracted fees. Here's the length of time. Here's the feedback and communication. Here's how we're going to work these sessions together. And there you go. Because at the end of the day, what you create with your mind is yours. Technically, it's not yours, it came from God. It's meant for you to share with others. However, you have to make sure that your image, your likeness, your words have some legacy to it. And 70 years, then you build a trust, you do all the good stuff, and then your family now continues that legacy. This is why when you look at books like Winnie the Pooh, the family has it. The Tolkien family has the Lord of the Rings. J.K. Rowling's, I'm sure her family will always have the Harry Potter series, and Louis L'Amour, his family will always have his Western classics. And that's the way it goes. So in creating these book legacies, and we believe everyone should have a book. I'm working on my seventh book right now. And it's a joy and a wonderful ability to just make something from your mind, put it onto paper, and share it with others. That's what the Bible is, and that's what God did. So the least we can do is try our best to express ourselves and find the right people that we can have in our circle that will help us find our peace, protect our peace, and expand our peace.
Well, that's wonderful, Dwight. I like the words or the term that you use, book legacy. I really like that term there. I know that, as a writer myself, most of the books that I've written, I've done it, either self-publishing. I just did my first independent publishing just not too long ago. So that's really
Congratulations.
cool. Yes. And so I love the ownership of that, but I also understand that there's quite a bit more work on me as the author in order to do all of the movement to really push this book, whether it's for marketing, to do all of the sales, and,
Ooh,
even with
yes.
some of the formatting, different things like that. But at the same time, it's empowering because I get to put my hands on it. If I need to make adjustments, I can make those adjustments and all of that. What would you say, as far as, and as I'm thinking how to formulate this question, um, what is, what would you say are some of the pros and the cons? Or if you're speaking with a potential client or with one of your clients, how do you really express the importance of being able to independently publish, understanding that it will come with a little bit more elbow grease versus traditional publishing? So how to, not necessarily to sell that, but how do you communicate the importance of being able to create a book legacy utilizing the independent publishing route versus maybe taking more of the ease but less control that traditional publishing brings?
I love that question. And this is something me and my fellow book circle we talk about all the time. And it's composed actually of a mixture of both folks who are traditionally published, folks who are independently published, aka self-publishing. So let's do a little bit of history first. Maybe 20 years ago, self-publishing was a bad word, right? Because there was not the technology or the infrastructure to support it. No one knew how to get their books into a bookstore, for example. No one understood margins matter when it comes to formatting a manuscript. No one even had the tools to make a beautiful graphic to serve as a book cover and appeal to people from 5 to 10 feet away, right? So there's a lot of knowledge that was missing. What happened, however, technology caught up eventually to the industry. So now I remember I used to work in a physical printing press down in North Miami Beach. And it was the size of two warehouses together. And we would make flyers for the political parties. We would make tiny booklets. We would make tourist guides. And you would need these huge machines, impressively big machines, twice as tall as me and maybe 100 times wide. And you had to feed buckets of ink, red, blue, green, yellow, for them to produce all these papers and business cards and everything. 5 years after I left the company, I ran into one of the guys and he was like, bro, I started my own printing press. And he took me to a spot in Miramar and it was maybe the size of a bedroom. And he had like a little counter, think of like a FedEx Kinko's, but smaller than that. And he showed me four little printers that I could possibly pick up by myself. And he said, listen, all that stuff we used to do, these four machines do it now. And that is how independent publishing has become. Because now, if you have Microsoft Word, if you have any type of image software, such as Adobe Express or Canva, although I'm not a fan of Canva because Canva's users' rights stipulate they own your images and your licensing. So I personally do not use Canva because they own everything you produce on their platform. And then you have distributors such as Amazon, Ingram Sparks, Barnes& Nobles, Apple iBooks that will allow you to create an author account, upload your document with your beautiful cover that you designed or you hire the artist to produce for you. And then you have this product that is available via print on demand where people just click order. And all you have to do, and when I say all, is all caps because you're right. It is very intensive. And one of the things I always tell folks, independently publishing a book or a cookbook, a poetry book, a photography book, a memoir, a journal, it is not simple. It is straightforward, and there's a difference. Something can be simple, right? This is not simple, but it is straightforward. There are clear steps from A to Z. However, you can't skip any letters of the alphabet. You are saying everything because it is as intensive as it sounds. So I always encourage folks, if you want to go the traditional publishing route, let's say I met this young man, he had a manuscript, 200,000 words. He's been working on it since he was in high school and he's, has a family now, but his manuscript is done. It's a beautiful book. We talked about it for a while and he wants to shop it out to the traditional publishing houses. I think it's worthy. I think it's good. However, traditional publishing houses, the way they're set up, they receive thousands of books, thousands of manuscripts, thousands of queries. Look at my product. Can I publish this? Do you want this? The odds of you finding a traditional publishing house that will accept your book is, I think, 1 in 1,000, meaning you have to send out 100 to 1,000 letters, inquiries, phone calls to get the one that would deign that your book fits their criteria. And so, what I always tell folks, if you want to go traditional publishing, be ready for it. I've spoken to authors who sent out letters for 5 years with no response or rejections until finally some of them got through to someone. So it all depends. Are you built emotionally to take rejections and no's and no's and no's? Think of it this way. For traditional publishing, the way I see it is you have your kid, 6 years old, dressed, ready for school. And if you take your kid to kindergarten and ask the kindergarten if your kid is acceptable for them, do they want your kid in their school? And they say no. And you feel sad, the kid feels sad, you go to another school. That is kind of what those query letters and those requests to have your manuscript accepted by a traditional publishing house feels like. If you can handle that, go for it. On the flip side, though, being independently published means you have to put the work in. And I always ask a couple of questions before I work with anyone. And one of the questions is this: how is your family situation? Do you have the time? Because if you are fully committed to your family and between the housework and your job and the kids and the hubby or the wifey, you just don't have the time for at least 5 hours a week to work on your book, not only just the writing, but also the marketing at some point, then maybe this is not the time for you. So the first rule is 5 hours minimum. You need that time. The second thing is no one writes a book alone. That is a misnomer. Our greatest writers who did write books by themselves, they suffered horrible ends. One of my greatest mentors, in a way, Jack Kerouac, died of mental and physical illness from drinking and smoking alone. Uh, the Old Man and the Sea, written by Ernest Hemingway, he died from suicide in his hut in Cuba after writing his last greatest piece. He was alone. I'm not saying you cannot write books alone. I'm saying in 2024, there's no need to. Myself, when I write, although I am writing as a solo endeavor and expressing myself, my family supports me. You know, if not in the editing and the formatting, they give me the space to write. Now, I'm not saying your family will buy your books. That's a whole other conversation. But I'm saying you need to have a team in place. Family members who support, give you the space to write. So you need that before you begin the independent route. Then after we can talk about, okay, what is your budget? How much are you willing to invest? What are you looking at? And I can tell you right away, a good investment in yourself shouldn't be more than, let's say, ballpark 3K. With 3K from anyone, I could work wonders. Okay, you're getting the full Monty, publishing house services on deck, and you own everything, right? So anything more than 3K, I would say take a second look at, see what the value is, right? Now remember, in traditional publishing, what's going to happen is if they like your book, your manuscript, they will take it and they'll say, okay, here's a contract. You're giving us the rights to your book. We will then market it, develop it, and as the royalties come in, we'll cut you a check quarterly, right? You still have to do the work though in terms of going on social media, posting 4 or 5 times a day, attending book conferences, launches, doing a press run, interviews, podcast guests, and all that good stuff. You still have to put the work in, but now you have a bigger machine behind you. However, and here's my measure, and I'll end with this. Before I work with anyone, I always ask them. Of course, you see, I'm not asking a lot of questions before I work with anyone because that's important. Based on your phone contacts alone, how many copies of your book do you think you can sell? Just by sending a text message, calling people, how many copies? If you tell me 100, guaranteed that's a green light. Because selling 200 copies of your book, that's a win. I know authors who only sold 10 copies of their book and they post on social media every day, you know, so you got to have a plan and you have to know what you want. Most importantly, you got to have time and support before you even look at the money.
Absolutely. And thank you for kind of laying that out for us, the kind of the landscape on both sides of the spectrum. There was something that really stood out. Everything that you said was so important, but there was something that you mentioned about being built for rejection, and that could fall on either side on either
Ooh,
side of the
come on now.
spectrum. From your perspective, what does that look like? I mean, especially for writers who are still writing or even aspiring writers, what does that look like, regardless of which side of the publishing trail you're on, as far as being built for that rejection? Because I know even on the independent side, like you said, trying to get that book sold, whether it's to family or to your network or even to bookstores or at events and different things like that, you could get quite a few no's there or as well as the rejections of, submitting your letters, query letters, and those kind of things like that. What does being built for rejection for this particular journey on the book legacy journey, what does that look like to you?
First of all, I have never heard it put that way. I've never said those words myself, built for rejection. I love that concept. Thank you for that. I'm either going to write a poem or an article about that, built for rejection. So
But put my name on it somewhere.
I will. I must say, Teresa Page is my inspiration for this concept. Because we're going to lock it in right now. So part of it is understanding number one, your purpose. And that is one of my main tenets. Poetry, purpose, and publishing. That is also my social media strategy and my pillars of content, because that establishes what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to accomplish. So again, purpose, whether it be your goal, whether it be your branding, whether it be your story you're trying to tell. What is your purpose? That has to be paramount for you. Once you have your purpose, anything that comes along, a negative, a rejection, a reaction, even a positive, is compared against the purpose. And if it doesn't measure up, it falls by the wayside. Being built for rejection, again, I like that term, is more than just accepting the rejection. It's being able to absorb it, right? Fighters will always tell you that the best way to take a strong punch or to fight a stronger opponent is not to block it, right? It is to deflect it or to absorb it and roll with it. When I say roll with the punches, it's literally you're turning your shoulder. Sidebar, folks are always debating with me how great a fighter Floyd Mayweather is because he hardly swings punches or he keeps dodging and shoulder rolling and avoiding contact. And I'm like, the reason why you engage in any type of martial arts or any type of physical confrontation, and that's the last resort. Okay, kids, we do not promote violence. Don't put hands on anyone. That's a no-no, last resort. But the reason why we engage in any physical contact is to bring about peace. So the physical contact is not to destroy, and we have kind of lost that in our society. We forgot that violence is never an answer, and we use physical force to find peace, and peace is the answer. So when the rejection comes in, the first thing you want to do is get defensive about it. Oh, it wasn't my fault. Oh, they don't know what they're talking about. But in reality, to handle rejection, you have to take it on the chest, on the shoulder. You know, maybe it might be a gut punch. Ooh, that hurt, that's stinging. Similar to criticism. Find if there's something valid about it. Maybe there is. Maybe what they're saying is correct. Maybe my manuscript is not good enough. Maybe my character development is lacking. Maybe, just maybe, I need to go independent and hire Dwight Thompson, aka the Right Warrior, so he can work with me on my manuscript, on my book, and produce a better product. And maybe, just maybe, I should independently publish my book. Because the rejection is telling you something. And biblically, when man closes one door, God opens another. It's so true. It's the reason why it doesn't happen right now or this way. And the grace we use to accept that is the grace we accept the rejection because they're trying to tell you something. Now, on a side note, when I work with clients, I'm never afraid to say, you know what, this is not going to work out in the introductory phase or even at the back end. And when you write a contract, this is for my entrepreneurs out there, please ensure you have an exit strategy because not everyone you're supposed to work with, number one, not everyone who you start working with, you're supposed to finish working with. And of course, the great aspect to it is once you finish working with someone, you want to have a follow-up. You want to have some feedback. You want to have a exit conversation just about, hey, thank you for being part of the process. Appreciate your payment. You have your product. Was there anything you would have done different or anything you would like to change, or how can I work with you in the future? Always have an exit strategy for the good and the bad. So this allows you to now operate clearly, because we see rejection as a negative. Rejection can be a blessing. Gotta make a note.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Rejection
I
can
love
be
the way you
a
did that. You
blessing.
actually kind of broke that down in several steps about to accept, to absorb, to deflect, find if the rejection is valid, as well as that rejection is telling, and also finding that exit strategy. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's like a 6-step program
Come
right
on
there,
now.
Mr. Dwight.
Okay, so fine. It won't be a poem, it'll be an article. Let's get it. We should actually
Yes,
post this
sir.
on LinkedIn. So that would work out great too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm really enjoying our conversation. So we're going to shift as we're starting to come to the close. A lot of the questions we haven't gotten to because some of the information you've shared with us on today is going to be the wealth of information that you're sharing with us is definitely going to be a blessing to existing writers as well as aspiring writers. So as you know, this is the Women's Leadership Mindset series. And so that leadership
Yeah.
mindset is so important to me. And I know it's important to you just listening to your language on today. So I do believe that every man, woman, and child is a leader that has controlling influence either over a particular domain, a people, a territory, or a region. So, Dwight, can you share with me what kind of leader do you believe that you are? If you had to put that into words, what kind of leader are you?
Well, I would love to take a shortcut and say I'm the best leader, but no one would want to take that answer from me. I am the leader that you need in all situations, and that goes back into my spiritual gifts and my understanding of human nature. You know, leadership starts with a conversation. So, for example, in your friend group, there are five of you talking. Usually, you can identify the loud one. You can identify the one who likes to make jokes. You can identify the quiet one. You can identify the one who wants to be the one making the decisions. Sometimes that's not very clear or obvious. And there's a joke on social media. If you can't find the toxic person in your group, you're probably it, right? So being a leader, again, goes back to the purpose. And it goes back to you being comfortable with who you are within yourself. And part of that is understanding these physical bodies are just vessels. We are spiritual beings passing through, right? And the reason why we have physical bodies is to house our spirit temporarily, to interact with the world, to hold a baby penguin. That's the reason why we have these physical bodies, and to communicate with each other. That happens on a spiritual level. So leadership is about communication. It's about knowing the purpose that we are here for and working towards it. If you go to a marathon and there's 500 people in the race and 50 people, 50, organizing the event, all of those folks, 550 of them, are all leaders. The organizers, the person hanging up the banner, setting up the speakers, the lady serving bacon and lemonade. What y'all know about lemon and bacon for a marathon? Come on now. Serving the bacon and marinade and lemonade on the side is as important as the folks running with the numbers on their chest. And that is leadership, because leadership goes back to the service mentality. The service mentality is one where it doesn't matter if I'm the CEO, I can plunge the toilets if I have to. And it doesn't matter if I'm the doorman, I can be the owner of the building if I have to. Because all humanity, we have the same level of potentiality. Now, our environment begs to differ. So there's a difference between if you are, for example, a colonial superpower in Europe, France, Portugal, and you have wealth, but it's built on the backs of the Caribbean indentured servants, on the African underdeveloped countries, right? The environment is different because of choices humanity has made. However, the individual has the same potential. If you give anyone access to AI tools, for example, I'm sure they can learn coding, but who has the schools in their city to learn about coding and programming and computer technology and science? Access and environment somewhat dictates how we develop and progress. But the true leadership happens in all 7, 8 billion people on the planet because we all have it. We all have a right to understand our purpose, and we all can help others find their purpose. And the best team, the best group is where everyone is helping everyone. There's an image online of, it's actually a cartoon, a group of people trying to eat from one bowl, from one pot, but they all have very long spoons. And so there's about 8 of them sitting in a circle, and the spoon is long enough to dip into the pot, but it's too long for them to put it into their own mouth. And the solution is for them to dip into the pot with a super long spoon and feed the person next to them in a circle. And that is how we get better. Too many cases, and I have a personal vendetta against gatekeepers, hence the name The Right Warrior. I'm in a battle all the time, fighting against my flesh, fighting against the industry that wants to keep people down, fighting against the minority that wants to keep the majority in check. I'm here for that because I want peace. And although we do not want a war, we prepare for war, but the goal is peace. Nearly every single vet I've spoken with, every single person who has served in some capacity in the armed forces, National Guard, etc., their ultimate goal is to either sit on the beach side and just relax in the sun with a cold drink and their family, or go fishing in the woods and then clean their fish and cook it and relax in their cabin. No one wants conflict. No one wants any destruction. We want peace, but sometimes we have to prepare for the conflict. And so part of that is understanding that knowledge has to be shared. What we know has to be shared with others. So in this 4 year span, I've been on this publishing, book writing, podcast guesting journey. What I've done is I've tailored my social media to give that knowledge. So I'm either talking about the 7 steps to being an author, or I'm sharing my poetry in the hope to let people see how they can express themselves, or I'm talking about how to publish a book, how to write a book, the steps to do a business plan, executive summary, talk about your structure of your business, talk about your local market, talk about the analysis, your 5 year fiscal budget preparation, because I understand that there's multiple levels to this game of life, but the only one rule that is important is the more you empty yourself of knowledge and love, the more is filled up. And that's a universal law. So leadership has to be about giving. It has to be about service. And whenever you come across a leader that hoards their power, that refuses to interact with their underlings, you know that's not a true leader. It could be a manager, it could be a director, or a dictator, depending on how you want to use those words. But true leadership is about the selfless giving, because we all need to share what we know, and we all need to share on this journey together.
Absolutely. Well, I absolutely love that. You kind of broke that down, what true leadership is. You talked about that communication, purpose, service. I love the what you also said about feeding the person next to you. That was really powerful, as well as sharing your knowledge. And you've definitely created a platform for that. Now, I also believe that, Mr. Dwight, that leadership is also a demonstration of love. And I
Mhm.
also believe that love is a game changer that actually gives us a competitive edge, not just in our heart matters, but also to help us to be innovative in business, to be powerful in leadership, to be present for our stakeholders and those that we serve, or our teams, as well as being knowledgeable in industry trends, or even benevolent in our community service. So with that idea, Dwight, how have you or how do you tangibly implement love into your business model with the Right Warrior? In what ways do you believe that you implement love tangibly in the work that you do?
We have two aspects to what we do. We have the paid services, and then we have what we call the community givebacks. Again, the knowledge that we have found and the barriers we've broken through, in spite of the gatekeepers, that information should be shared, especially with today's technology, with today's access that we have. You know, even little kids, they have cell phones, they have a computer. You know, there's no reason why a 10-year-old should not be able to publish their poems that they've been working on for the past year in grade school. Like that technology is there. So we have 4 community givebacks. And what we do with those community givebacks is we host virtual spaces online where we bring together, we organize speakers, event planners, writers, poets, creatives, artists, and we just talk about clear, actionable steps. We share the information that we have gained and what others have gained. So right now, for example, we have a summer series on X, aka Twitter. It's called Poetry, Purpose, and Publishing. And it's every Wednesday. So today there's going to be another one at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's a group of poets and authors. We get together and we talk about our journey and how we were able to find, first of all, the poetry within us to express ourselves. And then also, why do we do this? Like, why do we engage with others? Why are we going on stage in front of 1,000 people with the potential to be booed, right? Why are we traveling to share our work? And then, of course, the publishing aspect, the independently publishing aspect of sharing your story, of getting your work out there, formatting. And we have folks coming up into the conversation, asking questions, you know, finding out how our knowledge can help them. And that's a free share. And we do the same on LinkedIn, on Instagram. You know, these conversations, what needs to happen. So our give back, one of them is we host these spaces where folks can talk about their troubles, their triumphs, how are they succeeding, how are they failing, and we give them clear, actionable items. One of the things I despised working for the government was there were so many meetings that did not need to happen. There were so many conversations in a meeting where we could have done this via email. This could have been a 1 paragraph email, but instead we have 10 people here hee-hawing about the same thing for an hour. And I'm here taking notes and trying to direct and bring in the community. No, too much, too much. So our goal is to give actionable items. What can you implement today? What can you do that will take you to another level, that will help you accomplish your goals? Is it structured journaling? Well, tap in. Let's talk about it. What works for you? Do you need a personal development plan? When was the last time you did a SWOT analysis on yourself,
Mhm.
right? What is your weakness? Is it you don't commit? Is it consistency? Is it the inability to stay focused? Are you easily distracted? So these conversations we have in the open, in virtual spaces, in person, when we go to farmers markets and comic cons, we talk about how important it is to be yourself no matter what. And that's one of our give backs. And so that journey continues because you're right. Love is everything. And love is kindness and sharing. And until we find a perfect world, we have to keep fighting for love.
Absolutely. I love that. Keep fighting for love. Absolutely. Absolutely. But Dwight, we're preparing to wind down our conversation on today. It's been such an honor to spend some time with you. You've given us such a great wealth of knowledge on today. So as we prepare to close, what would you say are some tips or resources, or even some encouragement would you give to someone that is considering or who's still on the fence on whether or not to write that book, to finish up that manuscript, to finally set aside whether it's those 5 hours a week to contribute to their book and all of that, what would you say to those individuals who are, it is their dream to write this book, it is their dream for that book to be successful, but they still haven't gotten off the fence about that? So what tip, what encouragement, what resource would you direct them to help them turn that into a reality?
Find out your purpose. Find out if this project of yours fits into your purpose. To do so, you have to pray, talk to God, understand the role of Jesus Christ in your life. And I'm not going to play religious games because there's so many different aspects to it, but there is a reason for our existence. And whatever you do must fit into that purpose. So find your purpose, whether it takes you taking a day off from work with a clear intention of just writing down your skills, your strategies, your mindset, your love, your happiness on a big old piece of paper with some nice red and black markers, right? And just put it on your wall. Just like visualize your life. And let's just say, at this point in 2024, everyone should have at least a 5-year plan for themselves. This has nothing to do with book writing or business. Just personally, having a 5-year plan for yourself. If you don't have that, that's criminal. That's an offense. Like, plan your life out. 2024, where will I be in 2029? As simple as that. It doesn't have to be detailed. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be anything. But just ask yourself that question and then put that down. So once you do so, if you're an author, a poet, if you're trying to do a family memoir, it will fit into your timeline. And that's the beauty about knowing your purpose. And when I meet with folks, I do a 15-minute introductory phone call, video call rather, elevator pitch, social chat. And in those 15 minutes, I can discern right away where you are and if we're compatible. Because sometimes you have an idea, but you don't have the intention or the purpose behind the idea. Everyone wants $1 million, but who has a plan to get the $1 million?
Absolutely.
And by the way, the lotto is not. I'm just saying, it's a computer game that does not, like, I'm not even going to get into it. I don't want to make anyone feel bad. If you like your scratch offs, have fun. But that's not the plan, right? The universe is made in such a way that it's about systems, it's about structure. The connection we make is because we are the same. So once you understand that, then you realize to find your why and your purpose is to look within. Then once you look within, your purpose becomes evident. Then you'll know if you want to call me, have a video call and work with me. Okay, I'll be ready for you. Trust me, I'll be ready.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's talk about on the flip side. What about that individual who's already operating in the intention of their purpose? They're already living that dream, but they're feeling a little stuck right now. What would you say to them? What tip, what resource or encouragement would you give to those who are already living within their purpose, but they feel a little stuck?
I have none to tell them because your purpose speaks for itself. The fact that you're stuck is similar to when people say they have writer's block. I laugh at writer's block. Writer's block is when your purpose is out of alignment. So now your entire being doesn't even want to put thoughts on paper. When you're on stage, you freeze because either you're not meant to be there or it's not the right moment, or your consciousness is not aligned with your purpose, right? Think of yourself as a train on the train tracks. It could be a maglev, it could be an old-fashioned diesel locomotive. If your purpose is here, And you as a train, you're here, you're good. But if you're over here, writer's block, distractions, yeah. If you're in your purpose, you wouldn't even be watching this right now. And if you are, it just affirms what you already know. And we don't have to talk. If you're in your purpose, you're gonna call me and say, listen, I read your website, I know what I want, 3K, let's go. Easy peasy, right? In your purpose, you move differently. And it's okay to say no or to accept a no, back to built for rejection, because your purpose is the foundation. Jesus Christ is the hypest. That's one of my taglines. It's for a reason, because in the Christian faith, yes, there's some issues in our history with slavery and what we approved and the overall structure. Martin Luther King posted that sign up on the church doors for a reason. However, in our individual faith, in our individual journey to become more complete, we have to understand that the purpose we have is all that matters. Because your purpose and your alignment will now allow you to function. And sometimes it means nothing's going to happen. Sometimes it means the door will be closed. Sometimes it means you fail. Why are we afraid to fail, Teresa? That's like a whole nother conversation. Why are we afraid to fail? We forgot as babies, no one came out the womb walking and hopping and skipping. Even the Lord Savior was a baby once upon a time. You have to learn how to walk, learn how to talk, learn how to engage, learn how to become a better, but yet we are afraid to do things where we might fail. That's the problem. I'm on my seventh book, and I know there's a possibility it won't go anywhere. I know there's a possibility it might succeed, but I'm not going to stop the writing of it because of the possibility of failure. Anything can happen, right? We cannot be afraid.
Absolutely. I love that about how purpose speaks for itself and to stay in that alignment. Absolutely love that. And not to be afraid. You're absolutely right. Failure is a part of the process. It's part of the
Come on.
hustle. That's how we learn. That's how we learn how to assess or what to tweak or what to adjust. So it's definitely a part of that process. That greatness process is what I like to think. So Mr. Dwight, we are starting to wind down here. This is like our third time to close. You know how it goes in the church. The preacher says you get
Come on
three
now.
of I'm getting ready to close.
Yes. Don't let the choir sing again. Come on now.
Yes, sir. So you have a great gift for us. You was telling, I want you to talk about a little bit more about the monthly author pods. What is that like? How is this available to our listening audience for any authors that's out there? Tell us a little bit about your free gift.
Perfect. So I know my limits in terms of how many people I can work with, right? And it's about maybe half a dozen. After that, yeah, no, emotionally, spiritually, physically, time-wise, I'm tapped out. So what I've done, I've developed a system. Every month, I run an author pod, right? And it's consists of four people besides myself, four authors, usually with the manuscript already finished. So now we're just looking at the formatting, the editing, just making sure it's a complete manuscript ready to go out. And we work on taking the book all the way out and releasing it. Now, this is not a anthology series. It's not. It is you are an author and you're working with me as your developmental editor or with my publishing house. And there are three other authors. You're aware of each other. We meet once a week and you're able to share thoughts, interact. We're not sharing our work. Everyone's project is their own, but this is like a support group. And then within that month, we get as much accomplished as possible. So we usually meet about once a week for about an hour as a group, and then you have an hourly session with me. And we already have a game plan, a project plan that we are following with a time frame. So it depends on where you are in the 7 stages of being an author. That's probably where you would come in, and we would fit your schedule accordingly. And so for the month of September, I'm going to keep 4 spots open. for anyone who comes in via way of referral from Teresa Page and this wonderful, amazing session we're having right now, Women's Leadership. Mention them. I'm not sure we're going to work out the details. Maybe they come directly from you, Teresa. And I'll save 4 spots for in September for folks from this podcast, from this community, because I think it's important that we always give folks the option to tap in to support wherever possible, especially when you know what the support is for. You know, a lot of folks like to call the paramedics when they're injured, but perhaps doing a self checkup at a doctor for preventative care would have been better. I'm just saying, no judgment. So that's what we offer right now. September author pod is open only for 4 people from Teresa recommendation, referral. We'll figure out the details. And the first 4, you know, is not a sales tactic. I'm just saying I can only work with 4 brand new people. I got to get to know you. I get to become a little bit emotionally invested in your success. Like, I know my limits. If you don't know your emotional, spiritual limits in this business, yeah, this is not for you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we're excited about that. Thank you so much for offering this special gift to our listening audience. So we're going to be sure to put that information in the bio. So we're at our close finally, Mr. Mr. Dwight. But it has been such an honor to spend this time with you on today. Any last words that you would like to leave with us before we close out?
Oh, yes, definitely. So there are 3 ways I want you to interact with me after hearing this wonderful conversation. And first of all, let me just say, Teresa, thank you for the invite and for having me in your space, for being part of this conversation. However you can support her work, her podcast, you know, professionalism is on deck and amazing. The intentionality, support, support, support. Okay, back to me. So, number 1, purchase my books online. You have Pivot, you have Inner Sanctum, which is a book of 30 poems, my latest edition. You also have the workbook and vision journal. You'll find it on Amazon. It's a black and white cover. Tap in with me by my website. Not only purchase the book, but also leave a review. And if you want to take a video of yourself reading, doing the activities, and tag me on my social media on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Fanbase, Clubhouse, please do so. The second thing you can do is write your own book. If you don't know how, tap in with me for 15 minutes. I'll give you my 7-page independently published guide, which is a free resource, the PDF file. It shows you the steps and what you would need to put together to be an independently published author. Tap in with me 15 minutes. If you want to work with me, we can do a la carte, or you can get entire publishing house service. It's $3K. Okay, trust me, I'm not taking any project that's 100K words and above. So we'll talk about it, but usually we can handle it. And we have a special right now that we're running for the entire summer. If you have a small book project of 10K words or less, which is about 25 to 50 pages, this could be a children's book, it could be a poetry book. Tap in with us. We have a special $808, and we'll help you do everything: cover design, the formatting, the editing, the conceptualizing of the book itself, and the marketing and distribution plan you want to implement. And we'll help you do all of that for $808. The caveat is you must have the manuscript already done. Okay, you own everything. We're going to walk you through setting up your Amazon. We don't want your password. We don't want nothing of the sort. This is you. We're just giving you that contract skills you might not have. And thirdly, if you want to support and be a member of the Right Warriors, tap in with me, buymeacoffee.com. I'll go to my website, businessandcreativewritingservices.com. We have monthly memberships, annual memberships, and we have lifetime memberships. And what that gives you is access to our book catalog, access to our workshops. We have 2 workshops coming out in 2 months. One is going to be about your 9 to 5 becoming your entrepreneurship. I don't want to give too much away. And the second one is about how poetry as mental health is the way to go, right? And you'll get direct access to those 2 workshops, and you'll be able to tap in with me on a weekly basis accountability, or mental health. Depends on what you're looking for. Because sometimes we don't need much, but a listening ear. So myself or my team, we can provide that. It's direct connection. And we, of course, we do text check-ins, all that good stuff. So tap in either number one, buy a book, leave a review. Number two, write your own book, hire us as contractors. Or number three, join the community. Be a member of the Right Warriors, annual, monthly, or lifetime subscription available.
Well, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that information with us. So it was Mr. Dwight Thompson, aka the Right Warrior. Thank you so much for joining us on today. It was such an honor to have you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, so we're opening that door, and gentlemen, we want to say thank you for joining us today. Remember to connect with our guest, Mr. Dwight Thompson, aka the Right Warrior, as well as their special gifts. So to explore how Dwight Thompson, aka the Right Warrior, can help you unleash your creative potential, consider purchasing his books, hiring his Holy Ghost writing services to your next project, joining his vibrant writing community. So to learn more, you can visit his website at businessandcreativewritingservices.com, and also to connect with him via DM on any of his social media platforms. So to learn more about how to connect with him, you can also visit Linktree, and that's linktr.ee/the-right-warrior. And also don't forget to take advantage of his free gifts. So to participate in Dwight's monthly author pod that will begin in September of 2024, please be sure to schedule a 15-minute introductory call. And so we'll put that information in the bio. Now, if you have an important story to tell that would inspire others to step into their dream career or business, if so, check the bio to learn how to become one of my special guests. And also, I want you to check out my new book, so I invite you to check it out, My Journey to Wholeness, Love the Success Factor, as well as Love the Success Factor Reference Guide Workbook. So, we want to say thank you for joining us for another episode of the Women's Leadership Mindset series. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, here's to the journey, and let's move forward.